So I'm going to start by describing the domain. So I'm going to use a separate piece of paper. You're welcome to do this tomorrow. Just ask me for a blank piece of paper. As I go from left to right on the x-axis, I'm looking, do I continuously see some part of the graph? I do. As I look up, I continuously see some part of the graph. So when I identify the domain, and I'm going to write it over here, it's negative infinity to positive. I just gave myself more space. Make sure the negative infinity goes first, the positive goes second, and you have parentheses both times. Now I'm going to do the range. Now for the domain, just like I went from negatives to positives for the x's, I'm going to do the same thing, but range is going to describe y. So I start with the negative y's, and I go up to the positive. I'm going to stop when I see any part of the graph. Here we go. I'm going to stop when I see any part of the graph. I still don't see the actual function on the graph. Oop, there it is. What y value is that? 4. So I'm starting at 4, and I include 4. Is there any limit how high this goes? There is no limit how high it goes, so it goes up to positive infinity. Okay, do me a favor, and we're going to take little notes here. We're going to write increase, decrease, and constant. We're going to abbreviate. These three do the exact same thing. They only use parentheses. Make sure you do not have a cell phone out right now. You're not looking at a cell phone. You only use parentheses, you describe it in terms of the x values, and you read the graph from left to right. That's a lot of information, even though we've previously learned it. Let's go over it right now. So let's start with something really simple, like an analogy of you riding a bicycle. From left to right, you're riding a bicycle on this particular road. Would you be going downhill or uphill as I go from left to right? Downhill, which is decreasing. And then you come to the bottom of the hill, you're resting, and then you start to go uphill, which is increasing. So for this particular problem, I have one decreasing interval and I have one increasing. I always use parentheses. Notice that in the first couple problems, I even give you the parentheses as a reminder. So let's describe, first of all, the decreasing one. It comes from the far left. So in terms of x values, it comes from the far left. What symbol do we use to describe coming from the far left? Negative infinity. So I'm going to decreasing. It comes from the far left, so it's negative infinity all the way to an x value of positive 3. You don't have to worry, does it need brackets or parentheses, because increasing, decreasing, and constant only use parentheses. Let's do the increasing interval. This is the increasing interval. It starts at 3, and as I go to the far right, it continues to increase. What symbol do we use to describe far right? Positive infinity. Before I do end behavior and I do rate of change, I would like you to turn to your partner, both A and B. I want you to ensure that both of you understand how to do the first 4 of. When we go to this question, identify the end behavior, all we're doing is we're identifying the behavior at the far left of the x's and the far right. So let's start. I'm going to go to the far left of the x's, and I'm going to draw an oval. And one of 3 things is going to happen. When you enter into this, when the function enters into this oval, it's going to be going up, it's going to be going down, or it may even be flat and staying at one constant value. So for this one, as I go to the far left, it enters into this oval on the far left, and it is headed up. I don't write the words up, I put a positive infinity. Then this says go to the far right-hand side for the x's. I make my oval. And some of you can just visualize it without making the oval. That's okay. And as I enter into that oval, which direction is it headed? It's headed up. Are they always going to both be up? No, that's not always going to be the case. I asked you not to do the y-intercept for this problem because you would have to guess it's a decimal. Now we're going to do rate of change. Now I'm going to do it in 2 different ways, and I want your eyes up here. I want you watching. One way is I'm going to use algebra. And the second way is I'm going to do graphing. Okay, I'm going to start with graphing because I think for most students that's going to be the easiest. Now, some tests are going to say you have to use algebra, so I want you to know both. For the test tomorrow, I'm not going to determine which method you use. So this is not an ordered pair. This is an x value, and this is an x value. And this describes an interval. We want to know what's happening from 3 to 9. How fast is it going up or down? So I'm going to go to where x equals 3, got it, and I'm going to go to where x equals 9. Got it, okay? And now I need to know from here to here what's happening. By the way, is it going up or down from left to right? From left to right, is it going up or down? Is a line. It's going up. So I know the slope's going to be positive. I already know it's going to have a positive slope. Now I need to describe it with precision. So I'm going to do rise over run. Here we go. Rise up 1, 2, 3. Okay, I just went up 3. So I describe up as a positive. Then once I've gone up 3, I have to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I got to the point on the graph that matches up where x equals 9. If you leave it like this, it's not wrong. You could simplify it as 1/2, but this would be the answer, either 3/6 or 1/2. Turn to your partner and make sure you both understand before I show you the algebra, please. Go. Talk to your partner, make sure you both understand. Another method is the algebraic method you learned. When you're given the 3, 9, 3 goes to some y value. Here we go. 3 goes to 4. So I put a 4 here. And 9, oh, so sorry. And 9 belongs with 7. And 9 goes with 7. So what am I doing right now? I'm showing an alternative way to get the same answer. So I'm going to put this in, and you learned this in 8th and 9th grade, but you may have forgotten. This is the first point, so x1, y1. This is the second point, x2, y2. Okay, here we go. You ready? I'm plugging in y2. There's your subtraction sign, and y1. Then I'm plugging in x2 minus x1. 7 minus 4 is 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. There's your 3/6. So whether you do it the algebraic way or you look at the graph, you can get the same answer.